Hello and welcome to Off the Shelf Reviews.
I'm the Duke.
I'm David.
And I'm Gary. And today we're going to check out the Boondock Saints. Ian, the synopsis.
Well, the first movie follows two brothers, Connor and Murphy McManus, played by Sean Patrick Flanery and Norman Reedus, who inadvertently end up killing two Russian mobsters. They are baptized by God and decide to take it upon themselves to perform hits all around the city of Boston.
This film came out in 1999 by director Troy Duffy, and for all intents and purposes is an action film, but it's overly stylized. I have to say that going into this review, I'd never seen the Boondock Saints 1 or 2 before. However, I had heard of the films, but was always put off from watching them because I have a bad reaction to gangster films, mafia films, hitman films. They just kind of, they wear away at me and I'd get bored of them very easily. And so when I was 20 minutes into the Boondock Saints already, I was having that same reaction. I was just seeing these archetypal characters get set up to go on a killing rampage for an hour and a half. However, 20 minutes into this film, I realised that this was actually quite funny.
Yeah, I mean, with the name Boondock Saints, this is the first time I've seen it, but with a name like that, I didn't even know it was a gangster film, to be honest. I was like, I don't know, is it about somewhere in America, like a city? I was like, Boondock Saints? I was like, is it about dock workers? I don't know.
What? See, for me, I'm a big Hitman movie film fanatic. You know, I love Leon, I love Ghost Dog, I love Grosse Point Blank. And for me, this film isn't really a crime thriller or a gangster movie. It's a Hitman movie. The brothers, like we said, inadvertently kill two Russian guys at the beginning. They don't even mean to. It just plays out that way where they end up taking these guys out and then getting baptized by God to kill the rest of the gangsters. And the fact that they bumble through their hits, you know, it's not like they completely plan it out with a big board and have all these plans. They literally accidentally walk into a room full of guys and then inadvertently end up taking out 12 guys on their own.
It also doesn't really go into why, well, to the sort of criminal element anyway.
Yeah.
It sets them up as gangsters. They got the gangs, they got the heads. It doesn't really go into what they're doing.
That was the thing that really put me off right at the beginning, was that there are just walls of text coming up, introducing who all of these mafia gangster people are, and it's like it tells you what their name is, who they're working for, what they're doing, and I was just like, it was really difficult to keep track of so many characters that were being introduced, and then so many characters are getting killed off. It was quite difficult first time round to actually know who was who and who was after who and what was going on. Now, talking about the religious thing, near the beginning of the film, the two brothers sort of share a dream, and they both wake up simultaneously with God's plan in their eyes to go and punish the wicked.
Yeah.
And so the film actually has an underlying message underneath it, and it goes back to a real life sort of story where this woman was horrifically raped in front of nearly 40 witnesses, and nobody went to help. And so it's the idea that the sin is greater if you are a bystander and do nothing than actually committing the crime yourself. And so these guys are not going to take the shit. They're actually going to go out there and punish the wicked and clean up Boston.
Yeah. I going back to the walls of text, I got a feast feeling from that. Every time a character turned up.
But they didn't have a life expectancy.
No, they didn't have a life expectancy. But the fact that they were going up against the Saints, I didn't expect them to live very long. But, you just got this little bit of text. I'm not sure which came first, this or feast. But I did love the fact that you had these little bits of text just to be like, right, okay, that's David Della Rocco, that's the funny man, that's the mafia boss, those are the two brothers. And it kind of just flowed from that. Like we said, the religious underlying message I do really like. My attitude is if I see somebody in trouble, I'll try and help them out. You give me a silenced 9mm.
For thee, for thee, my lord, for thee. Power hath descended forth from thy hand. Our feet may swiftly carry out thy command. So we shall flow a river forth to thee, and teeming with souls shall it ever be. Nomine Patri et Filii, Spiritus Sancti.
That's probably good with the subtitles on the screen describing the character or who they are, because the film doesn't really go in depth about anyone, any
No.
of the characters, any of their backstories, sort of where they come from or who they are. So I guess that was a quick way to sort of give you a bit of knowledge of how they fit into this story, I guess.
Yeah, I love the history behind this film as well. I mean, Troy Duffy wrote the screenplay and took it to the film companies, and obviously they were all very excited. They thought at one time this was like the hottest script in Hollywood, and then financial issues and money was being dropped here, and stars were going to be brought in. They were going to bring in Sylvester Stallone at one point, and they were going to have two other people playing the brothers.
De Niro passed on it.
Yeah.
Mark Wahlberg passed
Yeah.
on it. Patrick Swayze passed on it. So a lot of A-list celebrities at the time didn't want anything to do with it, and so as a result, we're left with Sean Patrick Flanery and Norman Reedus, and of course, Norman Reedus was pretty much an unknown at this point.
Yeah.
It's only recently, with the successes of The Walking Dead, where this actor has been launched into the hearts of millions everywhere.
Yeah, I find an issue with that is that, you know, people go, oh yeah, Norman Reedus is absolutely amazing in The Walking Dead, and I'm like, you know what, I actually enjoyed him in Blade 2. You know, but when he was Blade's little sidekick and then Blade blows him up with a bomb, I actually really enjoyed that.
It's not a dud. Oh, great.
And I was lucky to watch the Boondock Saints back in, I think, 2004, 2005. And so I really didn't know who any of these actors were, apart from, we'll get into who Billy Connolly plays. But watching this film, it's very independent. You know, I get a kind of Clerks feeling behind this film. You know, the fact that they had such problems trying to build up for it, that when he finally managed to get the backing, he was just like, I've got to get this film done. You know?
Yeah, well, I got the Tarantino feel from the film.
Yeah.
Especially with
Definitely, I agree. It was a very Tarantino-styled film.
Yeah, with the structure, with the fade-outs, with the
flashbacks.
with the flashbacks, and sort of also with sort of out-of-place quirky scenes, or with quirky things happening within a scene that it's kind of...
It was getting very meta, where when the two characters had, either through divine intervention or dumb luck, had managed to clear out an entire room filled with mafia hitmen people, and they just start talking about how they went about it, and they joke that it's not like the movies. Even William Dafoe goes on to say that, it is not some James Bond shit.
William Dafoe in Boondock Saints 1 is amazing. I've always loved Willem Dafoe. He makes his characters, it brings them so alive that you cannot see anybody else playing them. You know, things like Platoon and Existence. I'd even go as far to say Bodies of Evidence with Madonna, you know, is alright. But in this film, when he first turns up and he's investigating that scene and he puts in the music and he just gets lost in his own little world. I could watch that for an hour.
I so wanted it to be Nick Cage, though. I just thought he could have brought the Nick Cage to those scenes and just upped the ante. Because I appreciated his sort of quirk later on in the film, when he sort of leaves the reservation and just goes berserk. But I know, I at the start, I just found him a bit...
He's very jarring to the rest of the film, because he's such an over-the-top character.
Yeah.
But he doesn't go the full way. It's kind of like, is he being strange, or is he just not part of the scene very well?
He's an eccentric genius, because he is, I'd say he's genius, and that's because he would appear so when you compare him to the rest of the people he's working with. He probably couldn't even count all their fingers.
Could you get ballistics down here and tell them they have to dig a 50 caliber slug out of a brick wall and locate another that's been fired through a dumpster?
You're the best ballistics guy in the world. Have me here in 10 minutes.
How'd you know that? Liquid paraffin. Came up positive. And bullet holes are usually a big clue.
And so he's brought in to investigate all of these killings and to basically do a write-up. But through the course of the film, Willem Dafoe's character starts to empathize with the Saints and realizes that the Saints are actually doing the work that the police couldn't, because there's always the loopholes. There's never enough evidence to bring these people down for long enough for anything to stick. So he's quite happy sort of partially covering up evidence whilst the Saints go on this killing spree.
Yeah.
But at the same time, his character is a douchebag. And he's also a homosexual. Now, that's not a problem.
No.
It's just that he's a self-hating homosexual.
What are you doing?
I just wanted to cuddle.
Cuddle. What a fag.
I love that scene where these are just cutaways after some action or after some exposition. It just, for whatever reason, cuts back to Willem Dafoe and we just catch up with whatever it is that he's doing. And there's that cutaway where he is waking up in bed with another guy and this other guy's all cuddling into him and he keeps slapping him and telling him, no, go away. And there's another scene where he's in a gay bar, I'm presuming, and he orders a drink in the most offensive way. And it just continues and continues. I actually find them funny, but at the same time, it can be a little bit unbearable, right up until the point where he goes full out of the closet drag mode.
Oh,
Joey Bevo sent me over as entertainment.
I couldn't shift that point where he's dressed from head to toe, and I'm like, you've got that gangster kissing him, and I'm like, okay, that gangster has either had no sex for a long time and is just wants it right now, because Willem Dafoe, as amazing as an actor he is a really ugly woman.
Yeah. I mean, he's no David Duchovny from Twin Peaks when he was in drag. Yeah, but and it's not till the wig comes off. It's like, really? Then that's when you have the issue.
That's when you have the issue.
Oh, baby. Yeah, that's right. You want a little shot at the tail? Shot at the tail, right here. What the fuck?
But getting back to the Saints, I mean, the brothers have, like we said, they've killed these Russian monsters. They've been baptized by God. They're bumbling into hits and taking out 12 people. And the head of the mafia family decides to call in an expert hitman to take them out. And he calls in the Duke, played by Billy Connolly. We love Billy Connolly.
It's Fido.
It's Fido, and I just, even though he doesn't really say a lot, I mean, that prison sequence where he's all chained up and they're dragging him out, I'm just like, I know it's Billy Connolly, but he looks like he could kill me at any point.
I gotta say, that was one of the best sequences in the film, the whole setting up of that character, because this is nearly 2/3 of the way through the film. I was getting ready for the film to sort of build up into its final scenes, and then we get introduced to this, and I'm like, okay, brilliant. So we've got the mafia hitman, and now we've got his best lieutenant, if you will, who's now being released for the sole purpose of killing the Saints. So I was like, actually, this could make now for a really good climax.
Yeah.
Because that build-up to Billy Connolly's character was expertly done.
Yeah, but there's that scene, but then he disappears from the story, and it's not until he props up again a couple scenes later that you're like, oh yeah, he was out. Really.
He's out.
And then he disappears again until the climax.
But that's what they say. They do say that in the film, that the Duke is a ghost. He sets himself on this mission and will he's not just gonna turn up and mess around and then disappear again. He's gonna turn up and he's gonna lay waste to the place. And if he doesn't do his job, he's gonna disappear, replan it, and then come back and lay waste to the place again. It's brilliantly done. one of the scenes I really liked was when they go to buy all the guns, and they just walk into this room. They've handed their friend like all the money they've taken off the first two Russian mobsters, and then they walk into that gun room, and they're just looking around, and they're just wanting to just take everything. The guy's like, "Yeah, help yourself," and it's just, you can see all these automatic weapons on the side, and you got that giant cannon. There's actually a joke in there as well. It's like, this isn't like the films. And then Connor, I think it is, pulls up the knife.
Is that right, Rambo?
It's all about the rope.
Yeah, it's all about the rope. You got to remember your rope.
My favourite scene, I think, in the film is when Willem Dafoe's character does go full on Nick Cage. After every big hit, well, actually, it goes to do the big hit, fades, and then it goes to the police, basically telling you how it went down. Usually Willem Dafoe, schooling the useless detective. There's one scene where they basically going to take out. I don't think the character's actually given a name. He's just sort of, he tells. Character tells you about a hit he went on with this crazy man.
Yeah.
So they go to take him out in this sort of weird little outside clubhouse outside a nice sort of modern American nice big
house.
Yeah. But as the scene goes on, it's like Willem Dafoe is in the scene going along with the killing, so he's like with finger guns next to the actual characters, like saying, "Alright," and then he shot him there. So that was a great case of chewing the scenery for Willem Dafoe and just sort of going crazy. But it's after the scene plays out and they're dealing with the aftermath, it's his reaction to not getting any success with the evidence because they've done a good job of cleaning up and getting rid of like evidence, and it's overreactions, and it's fuck it.
But fuck, you know what that means? Even if we get suspects in the case, we got nothing, fuck! Who the fuck are they? I've never seen any fucking thing like this in my fucking life! Who the fuck are they?
And just falling in bushes is just, that's when I actually did fall in love with the character.
For me, I've got to say, it's very safe to say that Willem Dafoe steals the limelight in this film because of his over-the-top eccentricities. It's just so memorable when you see him flapping his arms to the orchestral music as there's bombs and gunfire and everything going on around him. It's just, it looks like insanity on screen. It's very well done. I have a lot of favourite moments in this film. There's a moment when they're at Rocco's sort of place and they're all drug-addled, sort of out of their brains, and he bangs on the table next to the rifle and accidentally kills the cat.
It is... Oh my god! I'm hit! I'm hit!
It's just, it came out of nowhere. Again, it reminded me of Tarantino's Pulp Fiction, where he just accidentally shoots somebody, but it just happened to be a cat. And I mean, I laugh at a lot of animal cruelty in films just because it's funny, because I know it's just a film.
You hope.
I hope. Yeah. Hope. I also, I love the Willem Dafoe moments where he wakes up in bed, where he's at the bar. I also really like the moment where he's at a crime scene and he's sussed out what's happened, and he decides he's just going to start river dancing. It's just like, but I guess one of my other favourite moments is when they're about to burst into and do this hit, and they all put on their balaclava masks, and Rocco, who is their sidekick, also puts on the mask, but he's got hair coming out, he's got his beard showing through, and it just doesn't fit right. And I just love sort of the dialogue that happens straight afterwards. But I guess if I had one favourite entire sequence in the film, it would be after they've accidentally killed a room full of hitmen and Rocco's character comes in.
They
put on the masks and decide to scare the living shit out of him.
Where's your gun? Wait, right here. That ain't my real name here. Oh, God. Fucking six shooter. There's
9 bodies, genius. What the fuck were you gonna do? Laugh the last 3 to death? Funny, man!
And it's just for laughs, and it's I think that's priceless.
Yeah.
I really like Rocco's character, actually. I think Willem Dafoe sort of steals the show at the midway point, but I think he's next in line. I think this bizarre, nervous, sort of twitchy attitude really suits the film. Especially like with his meeting at the start where, I mean, he's called the Joker, right?
The funny man.
The funny man, sorry. And so he's like, well, tell me a joke. In front of Ron Jeremy. The cameo. And it's just, I mean, you're kind of nervous for him, the surroundings, but he actually does go and...
The joke is pretty funny.
Joke.
Yeah. See, that's it. I love all the hits in the film. I really, really enjoy Boondock Saints 1. I love the acting from Willem Dafoe. I love it from David Della Rocco. Norman Reedus and Sean Patrick Flanery, especially just at the start of their careers, 99. I know they've been in films up to this point, but this was like a big break for them, and it does work. The accents are a bit hazy, but they managed to carry the scenes over. And like I said, I'm a big Hitman film fan, so when they actually perform their hits, especially when they tell it to you in a flashback, I really love those ones. I mean, the first hit, the first fight where they drop the toilet on the Russian guys' heads is absolutely brilliant. When they're moaning about the rope and then they fall through the air vent and the thing to save them is the rope and they spin around the room shooting everybody is absolutely brilliant.
Sort of Punisher Warzone style.
Yeah, busting into that room with the hitman that they're supposed to kill. They lay waste to the whole room, and then you watch the guy that they're trying to get slowly just get off the toilet, pull up his pants, rip a bar off the wall, and just start wailing on them. I thought that was brilliant, and I like the final sequence. And there's this whole not wanting to spoil it for you if you're wanting to watch it, but as the film turns out, there's a big revelation between the Saints and the Duke. I'm not going to ruin it, but I like that last final speech. They're stood in the courthouse and they've got all the innocent people. And they're not going to waste the innocent people. They just came for this one guy. And they're just literally standing there. And it's a speech that you kind of think to yourself, you know what? Yeah, I want to be a saint. I want to deal justice to people who manage to find loopholes. It's really good.
There are varying degrees of evil. We urge you lesser forms of filth not to push the bounds and cross over into true corruption, into our domain.
But if you do, one day you will look behind you and you will see we three. And on that day, you will reap it.
And we will send you to whatever God you wish.
I'm surprised at myself, but I totally recommend the Boondock Saints. It has cult classic written all over it, from the point where it bombed in cinemas when it was released to the exceptional sales on DVD, all the way up to it getting a sequel. Boondock Saints is a small masterpiece in itself. It's got very memorable characters, some fantastic dialogue scenes, stylized over-the-top action. What more could you ask for?
Yeah.
I definitely recommend Boondock Saints.
I definitely recommend it too, just for the simple fact of it's funny as hell and Willem Dafoe in drag.
Yeah, like you, 20 minutes in, I was like, this film isn't for me, but when you get to the end, you're like, yeah, I could watch this again, again and again. So yeah, definitely just sort of just go into the film just knowing you're going to enjoy it by the end.
Fucking what the fucking fuck? Who the fuck? Fuck this fucking... How did you do fucking fucks? Fuck!
Well, it certainly illustrates the diversity of the word.
Which brings us on to the Boondock Saints 2, All Saints Day, which came out 10 years after the first film. Iain, the synopsis.
Well, 8 years after they have formed all their hits in the first movie, the brothers and their father, played by Billy Connolly, have escaped to Ireland and are kind of just living it out in a small shack. A hitman kills a priest in Boston to lure the Saints out. And so the Saints return to exact vengeance on everybody connected to this killing. But there might be a bit more of a personal connection this time round.
Again, I never saw this film before going into it. Watched it after the first film, almost straight after. And straight away was pleasantly surprised to see that it's the same director who also wrote the script, and he's brought back all of the actors from the first film 10 years later. It doesn't happen very often, and it especially doesn't happen in sort of the hitman sort of crime genre of films.
Yeah.
They're usually completely separate entities, all the sequels from each other. So I was pleasantly surprised. However, tonally, this film from the beginning feels completely different from its original.
Yeah.
We're watching these two actors walking around with the most ridiculous beards in the most ridiculous of settings in Ireland, sort of almost as recluse, sort of cutting down trees and just living the quiet life.
Yeah.
It just seemed really, really fake. And to believe that they'd been doing that for 8 years, I was just like, it felt forced and contrived as a setup from the beginning. And so it almost immediately, again, made me take a back seat from appreciating the Boondock Saints.
It's very much Dark Knight Rises. Bruce Wayne takes 7 years off.
Yeah.
Hiding in his castle.
Yeah, but see, this is the thing. Obviously, the backstory in Boondock with the production, Troy Duffy had signed a contract with the film company he'd released the first film with, and had lost all the profits from the success of the first one, from all the DVD sales. So he had spent a long period between Boondock Saints 1 and 2 fighting and suing the company so that at least he could pay himself, pay the main cast, and at least try and get some financial backing to make the second one. When he finally succeeded and got all this money and obviously was able to go and do the second one, I find the second one to be very Hollywoody. You know, the independently grainy kind of camera style that made the first one really good is lost, and it's all smooth and HD and it looks really nice. But you can only really enjoy this film if you are just a massive Boondock Saints fan and you just want to see them bumble through hits again and just inadvertently kill everybody they come in contact with.
Well, it was said on the day of my birth, a ghost of a dead man walked the earth. And my mama don't love me none. She hates everything my daddy
done. We have Billy Connolly again right at the opening, and he is the father of the Saints, and the respect and admiration that they have for him, even though he's been an absentee father their entire life. All of a sudden they now have this family unit, and it works. I believe it. I believe that they are a family, and especially the chemistry between the two brothers. It is as sharp as it ever was.
Yes.
And I believe the chemistry, it really works. And so as soon as they get wind that a preacher has been killed in Boston, they're like, shave, ready, gone.
Yeah.
And it's just like, there is no holding them back. And the police, brilliantly, we've got all of the police actors reprising their roles again. Some of them look a little bit more podgier than the others, and you almost double take and go, really? Is that the same actor in 10 years? Oh my God. And they are given a lot more material to work with. They sort of have more comedy between them, and that is because, sadly, Willem Dafoe is absent from the film. His character is presumed dead, and so we get the replacement. Now, I'm not going to complain. Julie Benz, who you might remember from Angel, Buffy, Dexter, Rambo, Saw, she is an exceptional actress, given the material that she's in, and she is gorgeous.
Oh, yeah.
However, they've planted her with this deep southern drawl of an accent that just... It's the same thing that Willem Dafoe character had in the first one. There's just that one thing that just makes you go,
Yeah.
And they did the same thing with Julie Benz.
Their interest, detective, is capturing the men responsible for the murders of 22 of Boston's finest criminals. They could have sent anyone. They sent me. Now, why do you think that is? Well, since we've already broken the fuck barrier, allow me to be blunt. It is because I am so fucking smart that I make smart people feel like they are retarded.
But saying that, I mean, she is a phenomenal actress. You know, she makes her characters believable. I believe she was a vampire in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I believe she was a weak, you know, Christian female in Rambo. And so in this film, even though her accent is a bit jarring, she controls the scenes so well. You know, the way that the cops are kind of looking at her like, oh, you know, we don't want her to find out that we have any connection to the Saints. And she's just stood there just like, I don't care about any of you. This is how this went down. This is how to control the scene. And it works because it reminds me of William Dafoe from the first one. And, you know, I really do enjoy that. I like the funny man coming back as well, David Della Rocca. He is mainly in their dream sequences because, obviously, sadly, he was killed off in the first one.
And the Saints believe in a heaven and an afterlife. So,
yeah. But, like we said, this film works because they've managed to get everybody back. I feel the same feelings when I go to the Lord of the Rings series. You know, you have all these people who work well together, bringing them all back together. It flows on screen. You know, the brothers are just amazing together. They were amazing in the first one. They're even better in this one because they've managed to, you know, mold their craft a little bit better.
Yeah, I appreciate the brothers. I think they have the rapport back between them, and you can see that. But back to the like detectives, I find that they've got the tone wrong with them. I mean, they were bumbling morons in the first film, but you were just like, ugh, they're just dumbass detectives. But in this, they're like the Three Stooges, and I
very much the Three Stooges. They were cartoon caricatures of the characters they played in the first film.
That's what I mean, and then with the sort of Willem Dafoe like over the top detective coming in, I think it just makes her stick out even more with sort of the cartoon character detectives behind her and her over the top with a bizarre accent trying to mimic Willem Dafoe, but it kind of then becomes like a parody of him. That sort of really dragged me out of the scenes and sort of.
Yeah, see, I think this film, Boondock Saints 2, would have done better if they'd kept the independent style of the first one. But having the financial backing and having the extra benefits of a massive studio behind you, the film it just does become so Hollywoody that the jokes that worked in the first one don't really work so well in the second one. It just kind of makes you appreciate the first one more.
There's a lot of tie-in jokes to the first film.
Yeah.
So much so that often when I was watching this film, I kept thinking that this is either a remake or it's a reboot of the franchise, because the timings of the jokes are almost in parallel with the first film, where they have the Wyatt Earp reference in the first one, and then it's a Jesse James reference in the second one, but this time Julie Benz gets the full cowboy makeup gear and it kind of works. But it does keep reminding you of things in the first film, especially when they start talking about the rope again. Whereas in the first film, it accidentally saved them when they fell through the air vent and got to clean house. This time round, they're going to take that piece of rope, and instead of just going through one floor, they're going to jump off a window cleaning platform down several floors and in through the glass. So it just takes all those things and just exaggerates them tenfold.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff is over the top. I mean, but some of the additional characters I really did like. I mean, I'm a big Judd Nelson fan, especially since the first time I saw him in The Breakfast Club. He is fucking harsh in this film. Just like Jay says, Judd Nelson is fucking harsh.
Except for Judd Nelson, he was fucking harsh.
One of the other characters that I really did enjoy was Clifton Collins Jr. playing Romeo. His character was just a kind of a replacement for the funny man.
The new sidekick, yeah.
But I sat there for ages like, I know your face. Where the fuck have I seen your face before? And I realised he was in Fortress with Christopher Lambert. And then I was just like, yeah, I really like you. You know, I love his sequence where he they've just killed a bunch of hitmen, and he walks in and they've just finished their prayer and he does his line, and it's really shit.
Who ordered the whoop-ass fajitas?
So he rewind. They kind of rewind, and then he does another line. It's still not really good, but it kind of makes you laugh.
Ding dong, motherfucker! Ding dong!
Fucking A.
One thing I also really liked in this one was the kind of Godfather 2 flashbacks for Noah. I'm a big Godfather fan, and when they were doing these flashbacks, I was sitting there thinking, you know what? I'd really love them to make a Boondock Saints 3, but just focus on Noah. You know, a film of him just performing all of his hits and getting more and more aggressive, leading up to the birth of his son.
No, I don't want to see that, because that's all the things that I hate about mafia hitmen films. I really did not need any of those flashback sequences to who he was or what he was. That was the mystery of his character.
Yeah.
And so when we get to see all of these scenes, it was just like, this is just filler, and this is not really part of the Saints or what they're about now. This was, and again, the tone of those scenes was also completely different to the rest of the film. If they did a whole film that was a flashback like that, it's another property altogether, and I don't think it works very well. I understand where you're coming from, but for me personally, that's just the sort of thing that I would avoid.
And plus, I think that film, I don't think you'd get anything out of it that wasn't done in flashbacks in this film. I think it pretty much told the story. But it also, his backstory, I don't think leads him up to who he was sort of presented as in the first film, like when his big reveal comes in the prison. I don't think I got that from his backstory.
See, well, I mean, it's just, like we said, it is kind of filler, but the problem that some people might find with the first one is like you said, Dave, is you don't find out a lot about the backstory of these characters. You're just kind of supposed to accept them. Then obviously when they do give you the backstory, it doesn't fit. Well, it fits in well with me. It doesn't fit in well with some people, but it kind of makes you appreciate those characters more. I mean, knowing the backstory for Billy Connolly leads up to the big revelation that the whole premise of the second one has been orchestrated by Peter Fonda, who is an old friend of Noah's. And so then the Duke realizes that, shit, my sons are walking into a trap and I need to go rescue them. I really found that quite nice. The fact that the Saints have laid waste to all these mafia guys, but there's actually somebody higher up that's controlling the whole situation. The midget hitman as well.
I have a huge problem, more so with this film, when it comes to the action scenes. Yes, the stylization is still there. Yes, the majestic gunplay is still there. However, the backing track music for these scenes is punched all the way up to 11 to the point where we can't hear any dialogue, we can't hear the bullets, we can't hear anything other than this heavy trance music that just punctuates the entire scene. That really frustrated me because I'm not a fan of that music. I think it jarred completely with what I was watching, and it took me right out of the film experience. Now, I don't want to slight the film, but those things that they did, like you've said, the stylization of this Hollywood sort of icing over this film, it does obscure the heart of this film, which are the two brothers, the Boondock Saints, which are still as fantastic as they were in the first film.
It's like all working against them. Pretty much. I mean, I enjoyed their sort of story. I'm glad it didn't have much backstory. It was just still those two guys going to do their mission, doing what they do.
Bumbling through it again.
But it was everything around it that just either bored me or just frustrated me.
I don't know whether it was the fact that I'd never seen these films before, and not being a true fan of the original Boondock Saints, watching the second film minutes afterwards, instead of having to wait 10 years like all of the rest of the fans had to, I think that's what's cutting it for me. Because I'm jumping on the Boondock Saints bandwagon too late.
Yeah.
So that's probably why I have a lot of reservations about the second film.
It's kind of like like going back, it's like I said, it's kind of like Clerks and Clerks 2. You know, Clerks 1 was amazing, and then Clerks 2 was kind of like a Hollywood shine shoved on top of it. You know, everything kind of works out for them in the end.
It's made for the fans, but it's also purposely made to bring in new audience members.
Yeah, and the same thing with Boondock Saints. I mean, if we'd stuck with just the Boondock Saints, it would have been. It is still, but it would have been mainly an amazing independent cult movie. Bringing in Boondock Saints 2, no disrespect to Troy Duffy. Like I said, I'm a bit of a fan. I want him to make a third one. I want him to stick it in a prison. I would really love him to bring in Machete and Snow from Lockout, so you'd have 4 badass characters run around beating the shit out of evil people. And if you can set it in space, that'd be great too.
Aaron go brag. What the fuck is that?
It's Irish for you're fucked.
I really enjoy this movie. Like I said, it's not as good as the first one, but some of the hits are just as good as the first one. Maybe a bit more over the top, but they're still fun. I love the first hit. I love the second hit. I especially love Julie Benz in the cowgirl outfit with the 2 brothers sliding on their knees next to her, shooting up the place while Romeo walks in, shooting up the rest of the place. You know, the big final action sequence. The big final action sequence I really enjoy, but I enjoy the face-off between Billy Connolly and Peter Fonda. You know, Peter Fonda is such an amazing actor, and Billy Connolly hasn't done a lot, but they do hold the screen very well, building it up to a massive shootout. I love it.
My favourite scene would probably have to be, like I said, the first hit. It's basically Romeo tells it how he thinks it's going to go down.
Yeah.
And I actually find that scene actually quite amusing.
The 70s flashback.
Yeah, and it was just like so over the top, and the crazy things they were going to do, and then he just pulls it back and they just sort of staring at him like, what a complete moron. So yeah, I quite enjoyed that scene.
I have a fair few favourite moments again in the film. I like the guy with Tourette's.
Nice to meet you, lad. They called me Fuck Ass.
How you doing, fuck ass? I'm Romeo.
And again, they're playing on the jokes from the first film, but it's the scene when they tease because they know what his Tourette's is like and they know what he's going to say.
Yeah.
And so when they say,
"Would somebody please come over here and fuck me up the ass?"
it just really works. It just kind of you know the joke, you know how they're going to play up to it because you remember the characters from the first film.
Yeah.
I love the sequence where again they decide to scare the living shit out of their new sidekick by threatening to kill him at gunpoint to the point where I think he pisses and shits himself.
Yeah.
I love all the stupid cop scenes, and I really like the scene where Julie Benz is teaching the other cops what happened, and she has the cop on his knees in front of her, and he's just she's holding his head right between her legs, and when he tries to look away, she's like, eyes forward. I'm like,
I actually one final sequence I really loved as well, the Russian roulette sequence between the Duke and the Hitman. That it was just super tense. Really love that sequence.
Yeah, I like the way Billy Connolly's just like, back off, boys. I've got this. This is how I work. Damn, surprised he made it this far. Really, with games like that. I have my reservations about recommending the Boondock Saints 2. If you loved the first film, without doubt, watch Boondock Saints 2 or Saints Day. It is a love letter to the fans of the first film. However, it is made in such a way that it's open for new audiences to come in and figure out what the Boondock Saints is all about.
Mm.
There's like I said, there's moments in the film that aggravate me, frustrate me, and annoy me when watching it. But there are more good things in the film that outweighs those, so that it's still a pleasant experience. And I really like this universe that's being created. I love the chemistry between the characters. Unfortunately, there's a few characters that get killed off in both the films.
Yeah.
But as we've seen, the characters that have died in the first film still have cameos in the second film. So the word is out that Boondock Saints 3 is about to go into production. And with the elevated celebrity status of Norman Reedus, I think Boondock Saints 3 is going to be bigger than both the other two films in terms of budget and everything that's going to go on with it.
Yeah.
Of course, the second film leaves it wide open for there to be a third film. And I have to say, I am excited to see where the Boondock Saints are going to go next.
Yeah, I think you need to like the first film to really get anything out of the second. I didn't really enjoy the second. I found myself just losing interest and concentration on the film.
Mm-hmm.
But if you do like the first film, I'd definitely say watch the last 5 minutes for a cameo that pops up right at the end. I did enjoy that little cameo. I thought that was worth sitting through the film to get that nice little bit at the end.
I definitely recommend Boondock Saints 2. If you've gone through the first one, then you have to. You owe it to yourself to watch the second one. I mean, the fact that it was made 10 years after, Troy Duffy has put in his dedication to keep these characters alive. The fantastic chemistry that all the characters have with each other on camera works really well. I definitely want him to make a third one, and like I said, bring in Snow and Machete just to make it even more fun. Maybe Rama from Raid as well. I don't care. Just have all these action characters come in, and the Saints at the front with their 9mm. Awesome.
I think with Nick Cage with Willem Dafoe makeup on.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Nick Cage in drag.
Oh, God. Thanks for watching Off the Shelf Reviews.